From the sunny hills of Misano onto the very rainy and the very dark cloudy hills of Brands Hatch. Welcome to the fourth round of the Simufur GT4 Championship. Welcome on in here. My name is Denak here, hosted by me and Plasma here, as we're going to be providing commentary for the latter half of the GT4 series here. We've already been going through some very exciting rounds here so far, and it's going to be even more exciting here with wet, with rain, with thunder. Maybe not thunder, but I hope you all have your raincoats and your umbrellas ready, because this is going to be one exciting race here so far. And we finally have my co-commentator Plasma here on time, ready to give us some insights on this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally able to get here after a move a house, move a station, but certainly looking forward to this race. Typical British weather, absolute downpour, and as anyone could see looking through the lens right now, it is going to be a challenge for all of our drivers, as not an inch of this track is left untouched by this downpour, just assaulting the track every second.
Yes, it's going to be very much a different kind of a driving style for all of our drivers here. We had a wet race last time in the M2 Cup when we were in nitrogen. It's going to be a very similar situation here in Brands Hatch here as well, but with a bit of an extra chance with how much the elevation change is on this track here. It's going to be very risky to get your car here all the way out to the edge of the track here on that slippery tarmac, onto the grass or the curb in here. It's going to be a very big risk of spinning out here, so our drivers are going to absolutely have to be on the top of their game here to keep their car on the road.
Yeah, certainly, and in a weird sense of the word, it's Brands Hatch might be one of the better tracks for our drivers to get a wet race on here. A lot of the times there's not a lot of curbs that you're having to worry about those curbs becoming very, very slippery once the water kind of settles on top of that paint, not being able to be absorbed into the ground. And Brands Hatch doesn't have a lot of those, as we're going to see many of our drivers just extend out to the absolute limit of the track. One of the few places we do have curbs right there through Paddock Hill, as we saw Grimloth coming down, and Zizor is actually running up the hill to Druids as well. That's going to be one of the few spots that you're going to see drivers probably straying away from the curves, but most spots it's just going to be straightening up that car and just getting the power down as best you can.
Yes, we can also see a bit of a risk here going up into the back section of the track here towards Hawthornberg, perhaps into Westfield and the Diggledale here. It's going to be a very fast right-hander hills here, and if you get your car a little bit wrong here with maybe one of the wheels going on the outside curb here, it's going to be a big risk for us spinning out here. But we are now going to be a couple of minutes away from our qualifying session here, so before we do that, I want to have a bit of a quick look on how our point situation is going to be going as we go on our fourth round of the GT4 Championship here. So we can see at the top end we have Azure Gold still holding on a very commanding lead here with 71 points, but after Grim Lilith's very strong victory last time in Misano, they've been able to close the gap here. And in between the top three here, between P1, P2, and P3, it's only 2 points separating them, all of them. So it's going to be a very interesting fight so far as we watch them go through the race here. And going up further down the field here, we also have a bit of a tighter split here, between our silver and drivers here. And you can see quite a bit of spread here, especially in the mid pack, which is going to be very, very exciting to see here. But as we go up over to our team category here, you can see an even tighter spread here, a similar kind of distribution between the T2 and P3 competitors of Newt and Oras Volpes here, both within a point of each other here. And Vossi is holding on a pretty strong lead so far here, about 8 points here, but that could change very easily here with these very unpredictable conditions here in Brands Hatch. So we're going to be watching them very closely. But if you want to be watching domination, we're going to be seeing some absolute domination from Snow here so far, able to hold on a very strong 10-point lead through the P2 car of Coin here so far. And we have been seeing them doing quite well here in these past few races so far. So I'm going to be very much seeing if they can extend that lead even more.
Yeah, this is going to be a championship filled with excitement, and AmChamp looking strongly led by Snowdog Slowdog, but it's still plenty to play for. All it takes is one poor result from the Am driver, and maybe one of their championship rivals sneaking a win. You could see things get turned way on their head. So I wouldn't say that 10-point margin is in any way a comfortable gap. That is certainly a lead that is easily lost. during a poor weekend. But we'll have to see how this plays out. Brands Hatch, if anything, is going to be one of the tracks that is going to kind of rear its ugly head in terms of shaking up our championship battle.
Yes, but we are indeed also going to be having some drop rounds in our championship as well. So in the Simufur championship, only the 5 best results you have are going to be counted towards your final results here. I've not been able to run the numbers lately, but I think with the drop rounds accounted for, the gaps are going to be a bit smaller than we may see here in the points so far here. But we'll keep you updated on that as the race progresses, but I do believe it's going to be another 30 seconds before the session is going to be red flag, and we will be finally able to get our drivers ready for the qualifying session here. We had some technical difficulties beforehand, so they were not able to so I had to redeploy the server here, but this time it's going to be a bit of a different qualifying session from what we had last time. It's instead of it being a split qualifying session, it's going to be everybody all at once here going up on this track here, so we might see a bit more of a tighter battle here from all of our competitors as they get ready for competitors, and we see Fossey pulling up over and get ready for our for our qualifying session.
I think just a little bit of a vanity shot coming in from the number 15 there, knowing exactly where our cameras were. They were looking for a little bit of publicity, of course. But we take a look at all the cars stretched out and ready to go. All of our drivers returning to the pits for the progression of our free practice to qualifying here, and it looks like, once again, missing a car there. I believe there was supposed to be a Maserati there, but just filled out and just some floating textures, you must say. But looking forward to this qualifying session. It's going to really test our drivers and who can put it on the limit for the longest.
Absolutely indeed. As we are waiting for the competitors to get ready for the run here, I do believe that's going to be the car of Azure Code who's going to be able to get out ahead and get the first lap going on here. So let's hop on over to their onboard as we see them going around on this first outlap in Brands Hatch. You see they're already going on quite a big charge. You can see Grimlith and Azure both just holding on a big gap to all the other competitors behind here, just trying to find that empty spot on the gap here and just get that good outlap going.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting qualifying. So going out right now, we have all of our pro drivers leading the front here. A couple of our AM drivers, of course, being locked into the pits with our 30-minute qualifying or split qualifying to allow each of our drivers the most track space, as Brands Hatch would require.
I have to correct you. We actually now have a merge qualifying. We have everybody driving out at once.
Oh, that's news to me, that's for certain. But regardless, we see the 765 as you're leading the way as we take ourselves through Dingledale, and then of course following up we have Sterling's pretty tricky corner. A lot of compression in there, a lot of commitment required to really maximize that corner. The wet track tends to throw you a bit of a spanner in the works, but P1, P2 in our championship taking us away through qualifying. On a long straight down through to turn 1. It's the longest straight on our track as we roll into turn 1. Very high commitment. Get the car tucked into the inside of Paddock Hill. You don't want to let the car run all the ways out that curve. Very, very slippery. Then setting yourself up for a very late braking into Druids. Getting in early, using that camera on the inside of the road to pull the car in, well put together by our championship leader. Then in the Graham Hill bend, an off camber, turning while braking. Very, very tricky car. Easy to find yourself off in the grass on the right-hand side there. And then you take your straight all the ways up to Surtees. Very, very tricky corner. Several different lines here. This is going to be one of the main overtaking opportunities as we run back onto Hawthorne Hill. The run on this back straight where we've seen so many battles. And then we trace ourselves into Hawthorne Bend right up at the top of our screen there. You're going to see the McLaren tip it in. Many side-by-side battles taken through here. And then rolling ourselves through to turn 6. Single line corner, but we could still see some drama as the outside of this corner, especially with that curb, could easily unsettle some of our cars. And rolling up through Dingledale and Sheen Curve as we tip ourselves. A lot of curb to take on the inside here, but careful you don't run out too wide as you trace yourself back to set up for Sterling's. We talked about the commitment this corner takes, and the commitment was taken, but a little bit wide coming from the McLaren. As we roll to our final corner, Clark Curve, only our 9 corners on this track. Hard on the brakes, get to the inside and let it run all the ways out to the outside of the track. Maybe a little bit left from our provision or our championship leader, but will it be a provisional pole? First lap of the time to beat will be a 1:36.2. That will be followed up immediately by a 1:37.1 by Grimlith.
Yes, Azure immediately going on a very commanding lead here, almost a second lead from the competitor behind them. And my friend will be watching our two Maserati drivers with great interest. This was going to be the big challenge for our Maseratis. They have good power, good acceleration, but with their lack of traction control and their lack of anti-lock braking systems, it's going to be a major uphill battle, as we see now Kuhn able to get the first Maserati time here over 5.5 seconds behind on the lead pole time here. So it's going to be definitely be a struggle for our Maserati drivers to be able to get the cars wrangled around here.
Yeah, the Maseratis historically not being very good in the wet race. It's still drivable if you can get yourself on top of the car, but this car is already a handful in the drive, so it's really going to be interesting to see how they progress through the wet, as you see a big wiggle on the exit of Graham Hill and the run to Surtees as Cohen is being chased by the Porsche of Wanov, I believe. But yeah, just look how lively that car is every single time they try to put the power down.
Yeah, I'm having a bit of a difficulty seeing the car here properly with the missing textures, but I think from the gigantic spray of water here, we can have a bit of a surmise on how they're going to be doing. And that's going to also be the other thing, as we see another wiggle coming up from that Maserati, and probably interrupting. Yes, we see some disapproving flashing from Juan V behind them as they probably interfered with their lap time here, but that's also going to be the other major chance that our competitors will have to keep in mind. It's just going to be that big spray, especially at the start of the race. It's going to be just a gigantic wall as we see another slide coming from the Porsche of Wushel behind them, but it's going to be quite a difficulty with vision on the first lap as we get them ready for the race.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a test to many of our drivers to try to set themselves up for the race. This is going to be their real first time absolutely pushing to the extreme limit to put everything out on the line. So a little bit of a cider lap as we see Orez Volpez coming through the final corner there. A very, very big improvement for the first two sectors. It will be an improvement if they've kept it together. And yeah, a big jump up by about a second as they've put in a 136.9. Still 1.1 seconds adrift of Azure, but Azure seeming to lead the pack really strongly. But another big improvement coming through, over a second through the first two sectors, coming in from Saber Kitsune, trying to bank another lap for them with 24 minutes to go, and that will be 137.3. So jumping up 2 spots, but again, looking at the gaps, it's the same old as Azure Goat is leading with a commanding advantage in the early phase of this qualifying.
Indeed, we heard some comments earlier in the week about the McLaren not maybe being able to get the power down, maybe having some same kind of difficulties as the McLaren had in Misano. But it seems like Azure has put all of those rumors to rest by just completely dominating this qualifying session so far, with over a half a second gap on the P2 driver of Fossi here so far. Not surprising, we see some more of our silver drivers be able to get up to the top of the grid here, and we might have some more of a look into their current ranking as the season is going to be wrapped up here, but we will be returning to them later, because we do see another improvement coming up from our current AM championship leader here of Snowy, currently on a 10.5 improvement as they go up into Gene curve towards Sterling's and just holding all that power here. A bit of a poor exit that lost them their time there, but still holding on a pretty sizable lead to the current P2 in the AM class. That's going to be about a 2.5 gap to the P2 driver of Juan V.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a commanding lead so far in the AM class. Actually, not even just a second. It's going to be looking closer to 2. And that is a very, very strong time from Snowy so far, already going down. As you see, they weren't able to improve on their last lap. But this track is going to be ramping up as we roll through this session, especially since we're doing all of our cars compressed together into one session. There's going to be a very big rush near the end of this session to be the last car on track. ACC kind of running in stages of grip, not the most smooth progression, but that also means that the jumps between different grip levels during the wet and how much time you can gain can be massive. You could see wet conditions, and it's still being stated as wet, but if you're in one of the more grippy states versus one of the more wet states of that wet condition, you might see an improvement of some 6+ tenths of a second. And that could be massive compared to all of our drivers. So while gaps might be big right now, we could easily see them come back together, especially if the track starts favoring one car over another.
Yes, so far we are seeing our weather to be a fixed medium range so far, but this could still change. We have another 21 minutes to go on this session here, and if it's going to be lighter rain, that's going to be really favoring the cars to just get those massive improvements on time here. And this is all going to be about the drivers being up on there, keeping a very close eye on that weather radar here to see if there's going to be lighter rain or heavier rain, and it still might not be a completely confirmed chance here for Azure to be able to get this pole position here, depending on if they can get, if their competitors are able to get the absolute right time, get their car on the track here on good conditions, on good light rain here. But we're watching very closely as we see Snowy going on another good improvement of 4/10 here. Now it's going to be putting them up into, not improvement on their standings, but that's going to be getting them pretty close to Saber Kitsune in front of them, only 2/10 off that. So we are seeing our previously AM class driver here getting really close to our silver and pro competitors.
Now officially 2 seconds adrift of the next driver in AM class. So Snowy, having spent some time working with Blade Wolf, and I believe so. Ooh, a big slide coming from Saber going through Paddock Hill, able to hang it into turn 1. Well held, but of course that's not going to be the fastest way through that corner, and especially a car like the KTM, not the best thing to lose that much grip, that much rear end, because that's going to really kill the momentum of this car, which probably, if I'm not mistaken, is the lowest power GT4 that we have on the grid. So takes quite a while to get the car back up to speed. It really thrives off of its mid-corner advantage, you could say. Yes,
indeed. And from what I did my own testing on the KTM, it was a very Riley car around here in the Brands Hatch. Very rear happy, very unstable here. So I'm going to be giving big props for Saber Kitsune to be able to keep that car in control and get those times here and still being relatively competitive with the within the top 10 grid here, with only a couple tenths off here from the P5 and P6 positions of Newt here. And we might still see quite some improvement here from all our competitors. And speaking of improvement, we are seeing Azure going on another 2/10 improvement as we see going up into Hawthorne Bend here. It's going past our M-class leader here of Snowy here, and it seems like nothing seems to be stopping this, as we later coin him the enthusiast car of the Luna car here, and it seems like he's on a really good flying here.
Yeah, no, Azure is going to be absolutely flying through this track. I mean, we're already looking at another improvement, which is quite a scary sight to see considering they're already leading the field by a second. Almost, I believe, yeah, just under 1 second according to our timing sheets, and it's looking like through sector 1 and 2 there's at least a 1/10 improvement on the cards as we see through the final corner. McLaren very well put together the compliance into the corner, the front end just looking beautiful. So I don't think those rear end struggles are of any concern for the McLaren here. So coming across the line, it will be a 2/10 improvement. So the gap now stretching to 1.2 seconds and at a 1:35.2, the time to beat. And that is a very, very scary sight to see in just the first 12 minutes of qualifying.
Yes, Azure is indeed known to be the GT4 driver in Simufur, so he's obviously very comfortable with that McLaren 570S around these tracks here, and he's been very eager to be finally at the top step of the podiums here, and I know for a fact that he's been very happy about being on the top step for repeatedly almost every single race so far. So I know he's been having some comments that he would like to get this championship secured by the next round, which is going to be in Paul Ricard. So we're going to be seeing if they're able to get that here. But going up down into our silver championship, we see also the car number 142 of Blade Wolf on their own improvement as well, currently on a 3/10, running up as they go through Westfield Bend to Dinkeldale and Sheen Curve. Want to get nice and strong here, going up to the next year, carrying a lot of speed and just skirting that curb here, just being very careful about putting too many wheels on those slippery curbs here. I know for a fact that if you just go a bit too wide on those exit curbs here on these fast right-handers, you can easily get your car spinning.
Yeah, and we saw also a big improvement actually coming in from Saber Kitsune, who had about a half-second improvement to shoot them up to P4 on the grid. So big improvement from then while we were focused up on Blade Wolf here, who's already still holding that advantage. It looked like a decent set of corners after our sector line, so it will be an improvement, not for position though, just barely missing out on a positional improvement. But we see another big improvement coming through right now. This is Wushel, who is up about 4/10 coming through the first two sectors, and looks like they were able to get the run out onto the straight. So what will it be? It will be a massive improvement by a 6/10 all the way up to a 1:36.0. So the challenge is starting to come back, maybe as as all these cars drive on the track, start to dry out the racing line, that Porsche's starting to find a little bit more lap by lap.
Absolutely. What I'm also finding quite curious here is that we have our previous race winner, Grimlith, only down in P6 at the moment. Almost a second and a half adrift of Azure's current pulsing in time here. So I'm not sure if it's something to do with the characteristics of the Mercedes around here in Brands Hatch, or it's just something to do with just they're not quite able to get the power down and get the traction on this really big body in McLaren. We see they're going wide into Clark Curve and getting on that grass here and almost spinning out, but all help from them so far.
Yeah, the Mercedes historically being quite lazy initially to get the car into the corner, but good mid-corner, and it has got so much torque that it kind of struggles to sometimes put the traction down. So those all combined might struggle or cause the Mercedes to struggle, especially the wet conditions are going to really resist that car's ability to turn even more so, and maybe start to expose it. Would require a much more snappy setup, you could say, really putting the car on the knife's edge and hoping for the best. But we're going to follow along through Zizars, who's on a very, very big improvement. 8/10 already through the first two sectors. This could be a massive jump up the timetables as we roll through Sterling. A little bit wide of the apex pushed out and a little bit on exit as well. So committing to that corner fully, but definitely losing a little bit of time on exit there as we roll through Clark Curve. A little bit wide, but Zizer's able to get the power down to get a decent run out. It was about 8/10 initially. We're going to see them cross the line with about 3/10. So those last two corners really, really costing them through this final sector.
Yes, and despite that improvement they would have had, even with the 8/10 improvement they would have had previously, that still would not have been even close to the time that Snowy has been able to do in the current AM class leader here. So Snowy is indeed in quite a different league here, almost in the same kind of domination as we've seen from Azure Code up at the top of the grid here. So it's going to be maybe a bit of a lonely race here for our AM class driver here, but at least he's going to be having some drivers of his upper class here to keep him some company here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it still would have been a promotion in the overall, but we jump through here and we see Newt, who's already improved through the first sector, coming across our second sector line right now. We're looking at about 4/10 of an improvement for Newt here. A very, very strong time as you see that McLaren's quite on edge coming through. Turn 6, Westfield Bend going up to Dingledale now. A lot of curb, let the car drift out, and not all the track used, but very high commitment from Newt, getting the car into the corner and a little bit wide, just like we saw with Zizers, and a big slide on the exit curbing there. That's certainly going to cost them quite a bit of time. So they're going to be hoping they can get to Clark Curve as quick as possible into the corner very early, power down, letting the car drift wide. Is it going to be an improvement now? They looked like they would have lost quite a bit of time. We saw how much Zizers lost, and it is not. They're going to have lost their improvement in that big slide coming through Sterling's, and they're going to be kicking themselves for that for sure.
Yeah, thankfully they still have now another 30 minutes to get their lap going on here as we now go on board for Grimlith here, currently on another 2/10 improvement here. Still not quite getting that Mercedes under control as they would have hoped for here, but looking to be able to challenge at least to the top 5 of the grid here with currently Azure Goat, Wushul, Vossi, Newt, and Sipa Kitsune holding on those top 5 positions here, but with about 30 minutes to go here, no changing in the wet windy track conditions so far here. So it's all going to be just how well these cars are able to get those final few tenths here, just push that tiny bit more here. We might see some of these competitors just try to use every single inch of the track here. We might see a bit more incidents here as they try to push the limits.
Well, we've seen how that's worked through Sterling's, as we've seen two drivers really push the limits there, but then that exit curbing really costing them quite a bit. So it's not always the best to push the absolute limit and even a little bit more. But Grim Lilith coming across the line here, and it will be an improvement taking up the P5 as they improve by about 2/10, a little bit less, to a 136.5. A strong time from them as we see once again through the first two sectors is an improvement by Newt. So just trying to put it together. Looked like they had a decent exit through Sterling. So now just Clark corner to navigate, and early on that power, you can see how early that car comes off of the apex and just drives itself out. So that could have been a strong exit from Newt. Hard to tell as we come across the line, and it will be an improvement up to P3 with a 136.3. So it does look like this track is improving as we see multiple greens pace all over our delta bars as everyone seems to be putting a faster and faster lap as they roll through this Brands Hatch circuit.
Yeah, we are probably seeing a bit of an evolution of the track here, with track maybe getting a slight bit drive that enables our competitors to just extract a couple more tenths from their cars here. We are actually also seeing a big improvement coming up from Auras Focus here, already going up down into Clearbase and into Clark Curve here. And with a good exit. Let's see if they can just hold it on tight here, going up into Clark. Get that curving nice and tight here with a good exit. Another 10th improvement here, currently going on a fly here towards the final Brabham straight here. We see them jumping up. Is it going to be an improvement? Yes, it will be one position up into P6. Even Saber Kitsune by only a couple hundredths of a second here. So we are seeing a very tight margin between our top 5 grid here.
Yes, but every single driver within the top 7 bar 1 that is on a flying lap right now is improving. And as I say that, actually all of our drivers now on an improvement. So this is far from over as we roll on with Vossi here, who's already through the first sector, looking up by a 2/10 of a second. And now we're trying to see coming through up Hawthorne Bend. It's a high commitment corner. We see a lot of commitment coming in from the Porsche, but a little bit wide of the apex, and that's going to push them off into the grass and over the curb. But well held by Vossi to keep it out of the wall. But of course, that is going to ruin their lap, and that's unfortunately going to toss them back onto recovering for the next lap. As we jump on with Wanov here, who's now going to follow suit through Hawthorne Bend as well. Again, very, very high commitment for these Porsches, and coming through, it will be well put together coming from our P12 driver right now, but they're on an improvement of 1.1 seconds right now, so this could very easily push them into the top 10 and then some if they're able to put this through. Dingledell's up next, and it very, very tidy from the number 911. So as we roll through 2 Sterlings and down the straightaway, yes, it will be well put together. So one more corner to navigate to bank this time. The Maserati in front of, I believe that is F-Spirit. And as we roll through the final corner and wide through Clark Curve, and that's going to throw all of that time into the bin. And one of us now going to have to set up for probably 2 laps here, because this next lap's not going to have any momentum across turn 1.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate from the driver here. I was watching the Delta very closely, and I was pretty sure if they would have been able to get that lap together, that would have been able to beat even Snowy up into the provisional amp pole here. So he's definitely going to be kicking themselves here, just trying to hopefully get that magic again for the final few laps here. As we have another 9 minutes to go on our session here, we are seeing our it's not quite a surprise yet that our 2 Maseras are currently at the very bottom of our standings here with P13 and P14 here, and yeah, not quite a surprise here, but let's see if they can maybe get something more gathered out of their cars here towards the final end of their qualifying session here, as we now see Wanby again on another 5/10 improvement here, going up into the first 2 sectors here, going up down Hawthorne Hill and towards Hawthorne Bend here. Let's see if we can just keep it nice and tidy this time around here, keep that lap out of speed, and then going on, carrying a lot of speed, touching that curb and holding it nice and tidy here. Another 6/10 on their lap time here, so we can maybe just see another amp provisional pull here as we watch them going down towards Dingledell, towards Sheen. Nicely held, big cut on that curb. Let's see if we can put together here, going up into Sterling's. A big commitment corner there, be nice and close here. Now we're going to be watching them see if they can get that corner committed. A bit of a time lost here in the previous 2 corners here with not quite a bit of an exit, but we see them going through Clark Curve. Much better exit this time here, not going up on the gravel here, and we see them losing quite a bit of time here, so unfortunately they are not able to get that time this time, but hopefully they'll be able to get that challenge up into Snowy.
Yeah, a lot better run down the main straight though, so they'll at least be able to take that through, although I do think they're electing to take a new set of tires as they're off in turn 1 trying to reset their car. So yep, another big improvement coming in, or sorry, not a big improvement, but we'll see a slight improvement coming in from Blade Wolf so far, as well as a couple of other of our drivers around the grid as we roll through Surtees. You see that Aston Martin home race for the British mark, and of course a British driver inside trying to take it to the front. Of course, Blade Wolf trying to still fight for that silver pole position, as we're looking at the lead of that sitting at a 136.3, currently held by Newt. Blade Wolf sitting a little bit adrift of a 136.9, so about 7/10 drift But certainly time is still there for the 142 as we roll through down into Dingledell and back up over Sheen Curve. Inside of that curb, absolutely abused by the Aston Martin, and then down into Sterling's. Once again, very high commit corner, a little bit wide of the apex. I think most of our drivers choosing to stay a little bit wide there rather than take too much curb on the inside. But Blade Wolf coming through one corner to beat, and looks like it will be close on if they're on an improvement or not, but very, very wide there through Clark, and I think that's going to cost them quite a bit of time as we roll across the start-finish line. And it does look like, yes, unfortunately, it won't be an improvement on their time.
Yes, we are seeing our time slowly running out for our competitors here with the final 6 minutes to go here, and we might see our final runs here with the competitors putting on the absolute minimum amount of fuel on their cars here, just trying to extract everything they can out of their cars here. We actually are seeing Newt currently on a small improvement as they go down Hawthorne Hill here, about a 10th here, but I think that poor exit going up into Surtees is what caught my direction. That's going to be the big challenge for all of our competitors. Surtees is going to be a very tricky late apex corner. And if you don't get that absolutely right, you're going to be losing massive amounts of time going up towards Hawthorne and Sector 3 here. So it's going to be definitely the best overtaking opportunity for all of our competitors in the coming race session.
Absolutely. We also saw a little bit of a wiggle coming from the McLaren there of Newton. I do think that could have been a time loss, but rolling through Sterling's, it looks like they're still on the attack, have yet to abort this lap, so it could still be an improvement using a little bit of that curb on the exit as we run towards Clark Corner through the last 5 minutes of our session now being ticked over. So the time is now for most of our drivers to start setting their fastest final lap. So you take a look, our times shifted I shifted the timing screen, but it doesn't look like Newt was going to get an improvement there. But Wanav now again starting to put together another good lap, currently sitting at about 7/10 as we get ready to cross our first sector line and down on the run towards Surtees. This is the corner that catches out a lot of drivers. Again, multiple different lines that you can take. It looks like maybe a little bit wide on entry from one of taking it in, picking up a little bit of understeer, but a good run down the straightaway and getting that power down. So going up to Hawthorne Bend, again, very, very high commitment corner, into the corner early, drag that brake, pull the nose in a little bit wide of the apex. So it's going to be leaving a little bit of time on the table, but we roll through, and once again, it's 1.2 seconds up for the 911, and now we roll back down to Dingledell on a very, very big improvement that could take our AM pole position. Then we roll through all the ways over Sheen Curve, set it up for Sterling's, get it back over to the right-hand side of the track, inside, very tight to the apex, maybe a tiny, tiny bit wide, but still well put together from Wanav, and now all the ways down to Clark Curve. This corner's caught out so many drivers, Wanav as well, so we get into the inside very early, good on the inside, taking all the curb, hard on the power. So we shift over to the timing screen, and is it gonna be an AM provisional pole for Wanav? And yes, it is, and it's going to be won by just about 1.5 tenths. So we have a new AM provisional pole, so now the answer has to shift to Snowy, and if they can improve for their next lap, as it does look like they have an improvement that's already eking out, but no, actually they're very, very wide in Paddock Hill, and that's going to be resetting their next attempt for qualifying. Yes, I wonder if that might be too little too late to get their tires back at the pressure. So we shift back over to Blade Wolf, who's already on a 4/10 improvement through the first two sectors. We roll through Clark Curve. It seems decently well put together, so we're going to move on over to the timing screens, and again it's going to be a big improvement, about 3/10, but not enough to shake out another position off of those other drivers in the mid-pack, which is so tightly compacted together, about 2/10 covering 4 of our drivers.
Absolutely, these are getting really tense here with the final few minutes of the race session going on here. Everybody just getting the absolute maximum of their cars. They still have the opportunity here, and yeah, it's quite surprising to see Juan be finally able to get it, as we see Weymouth with a big spin going up into Graham Hill. We're getting back into the pits here, but we are seeing more cars on an improvement here. We actually are seeing F-Spirit now finally on a 6/10 improvement here as they go up into Clark Curve and getting on that power down onto the Raven Straight. Let's see if they can jump up a couple positions here. It's going to be an improvement. It's going to be 1 position up here, but those Maseratis are definitely not happy about this with track today. They are probably hoping to see clear skies here, but unfortunately that's not going to be coming here from the looks of things.
I do think these Maseratis will do a little bit better in the race, though, once they are able to use a little bit drier track, as we see a big slide coming from Spirit, who's almost become known for just drifting this Maserati around the circuit. The 777 with a driving style very similar to the 777 team out in V8 supercars. So very, very akin to maybe who they're paying homage to. But we jump on board with Azure Goat here, who are looking like a slight improvement through the first two sectors. We roll through to probably their final attempt coming out of Clark Curve. As we roll through, easily put together, you can see the car stretch all the ways out to the end of the track limit. So will it be an improvement from Azure Goat? Believe we actually matched our lap time, or just slightly worse, as we roll through turn 1. But Azure Goat now starting the final lap, and each of our drivers, as they cross their line, their final attempt at qualifying right now.
Yes, we are watching the final opportunities for everybody to get their laps on here, and everybody is on a slight bit of improvements here, so we might see our top 7 of the grid here change order here. We are not likely to see anybody be able to beat the utter domination of Azure Goat here, but certainly looking at like the car of Vossi here, currently on a 2.5 improvement here as we go them through the first sector here, hoping to just get high up on the field and beat their main competitor Newt here. They are still in a very tight battle here in that Silver Championship, and when I had a bit of a look here through our points here, with drop rounds included here, it's going to be only about 5 points apart. So with drop rounds in mind here, it's still very much an alive championship with the top 2 silver drivers of Newt and Vossi here. So it's going to be anybody's game here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see Vossi taking it down into Hawthorne Bend, rolling up the hill, and he's looking a little bit wide. Most of our drivers seeing the stray a little bit far from the inside curb there, seeming to be the preferred line as we now roll through now down to Dingledale. So the gap remains about 0.2. We see a car stopped on the outside there. I believe that was the 919 of Snowy as we roll through Sheen Curve. Sterling's once again about to see if we can take to the inside, and Vossi very well put together deep into the inside, but it's going to be a little bit wide coming on the exit curve there, really unsettling the rear of that Porsche as well. So that's going to be a time loss, but can we make it back through here early on the power, let the car stretch all the ways out to the exit there? Does look like it could have been a decent run on the exit for Vossi, but will it be an improvement with that slide through Sheen Curve? And no, it will not, just missing out by 0.5. But we see a big improvement coming in from Wushel here, the 69 Porsche, one Porsche after the next. So we roll through 2.1 coming in through the first 2 sectors, then rolling through. Will it be an improvement enough to take Azure? No, it will not, but 0.5 adrift. It will be a big enough improvement to show some strong pace against the rest of the pro drivers that Wushel will be trying to compete against, now sitting almost 0.5 second adrift of everyone else minus Azure. But my oh my, Azure leading with a dominating pole lap.
Definitely a very well done qualifying from our resident Luna enthusiast here. But looking down the grid here, we see a very tight spread from P9 all the way up into P4 here. All of them about a second off each other here. So as we are getting ready for our race session here, it's going to be definitely a very interesting race start. We also finally have a new AM pole sitter here of Juan V, because we did, from every single race Snowy has been able to compete in so far, they have been able to get pole position every single time here. So we might see some more interesting battles coming up in our AM class here as we get ready for our race session here. And we indeed also have Newt finally be able to get another pole position here. So the fight is still not over for the top 2 positions in silver class as well. So we're going to be seeing quite a lot of interesting fights here.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting battle throughout the race here. I'm really interested to see how these Maseratis do. I almost said Mercedes. I believe they'd be a little bit disrespected if I mentioned the Mercedes as comparison to the Maseratis and how they're handling this wet track. But very, very interested to see how all of our Maseratis handle the race once that track dries out. All of our drivers running at once. But something that I noticed is very, very interesting. Probably our most dominant car in terms of car choice and the amount of people driving. The Chevrolet has no representation this weekend.
Yeah, it's quite curious. I think it's just going to be down to scheduling here, with most of our normal Chevrolet enthusiasts not able to attend this weekend here. So hopefully we'll see them again here for the next round that's going to be in Paul Ricard. But for now, we're just waiting for our competitors to get ready and start the race here. So I do feel like it's going to be a very solid lead here from Azure Code, but I do think it's still going to be more of a close fight between Wushul and Grimlith, with Wushul able to get that 5/10 gap on Grimlith during qualifying here, but I feel like with how experienced and seasoned Grimlith is as a racer here, he's going to be definitely be up there challenging our resident Shork here to get that second position at least.
Yeah, it'd be very, very interesting for sure. We do see an interesting battle shaping up at the front, though. If Azure makes any kind of mistake, of course, Brands Hatch being known for being relatively tricky to get past, I do think that we could see a bit of a battle coming through the first couple sections of this race. Of course, the Porsche, not the craziest on a straight line. The McLaren really being the straight line king, but carries that mid-corner speed well, and as well as the Mercedes just with the torque getting the run off of the corner. I think that could be very, very interesting if either one of our drivers in P2 or 3 are able to get the jump off Azure and take that lead into turn 1 and turn 2. So long race ahead. Of course, our usual 45 minutes for the race, and it's going to be a rather interesting grid as we take a look down. Azure Goat in the 765, the almost inevitable pole position coming in from their Luna plastered car, followed up by their compatriot in the Porsche. That's going to be Wushel in the 69, taking that second spot in the second row. The 115, Grim Lilith taking in P3 with a very bright and audacious blue and green livery. Is going to take P3, followed up by Newt, who's going to take that second McLaren all the ways to that second row. Vossi in the number 15. You're going to be your second Porsche. Is going to be filling out the inside of row 3, and newly transferred over to the KTM of Saber Kitsu in the 523. Is going to be looking to make a move up the grid with that very nimble machine. The home hero Janetta 406, piloted by Orez Volpe, is going to be taking up the inside of row 4, of course, by the other home British Mark, the 142 of Bladewell, taking the outside of row 4. One with your AM pole position is going to be filed inside of row 5, and they're going to be lined up beside by MNU underscore, our last pro driver with a disappointing qualifying, but that Mercedes really proving to be a handful. So it is unfortunately going to be probably a tough race for them. The 919, Snowy, who we saw lose that pole position just at the death of qualifying, is going to be taken to the inside of row 12, looking like they are embracing that promotion that they might be asking for with how they've handled this AM championship. They're going to be lining up next to our first Maserati, the 777 of F-Spirit. Zizor with a disappointing qualifying. We saw a bit of struggles coming from that BMW, is going to be taking up the inside of row 7, followed by a missing car, but I can see a number board. The 404 of Cohen is going to be filing out that final position. Of course, all going to be chased on this first lap by our safety car, the ever pleasant Spitzer, is going to be filling out that role for this race. So we're going to be coming into the race in about 30 seconds to go here. Our drivers just making their final preparations, and you can see all of our drivers rearing and ready to go. The formation lap going to be quite short here around Branch Hatch Circuit, so not a lot of time to get yourself prepared. Of course, once that timer stops, then getting that heat in will be rather tricky. So now we could see some of our drivers overstepping their marks a little bit.
It's just going to be a very interesting lap here for sure. We're still waiting our competitors to get ready on their out lap here, but looking at a quick look at the points in the overall AM Championship so far, it's still going to be Snowy in a pretty commanding lead here in the AM Championship here, but in the Pro class, we are seeing a lot more tight competitors having all the way from E down into P7, everybody within 7 points of each other here. So no matter where everybody's going to be finishing, it's definitely going to be shuffling things up here in our overall championship, as we're now finally getting our drivers getting ready for their first lap around on this track here. And I do believe it's going to be a very easy race here for Azure, but anything could still happen here, so he's definitely going to have to keep him on his toes here with Wushel and Grim right behind him, both eager to just get that jump on the first ring and hopefully get that move going up into Paddock Hill Bend.
Yeah, as we roll through, it's coming up the 30s here. I mean, we're going to see many of our drivers dragging their brakes, as I'm forgetting how to speak my own language. We roll through, and this is where the biggest opportunity to really get your tires up to temperature is going to be for most of our drivers. This straightaway to really put a lot of temperature into those brakes. As we see, yeah, the strikes. There's brakes being dragged by Azure down the straight, and these wet tires needing a little bit more temperature to get them really fired up. Of course, they're a much softer compound than the dry tires that we are used to. And of course, they're running at a much higher pressure as well to help cut through that water on the surface. So many of our drivers need to work a bit harder here. We could see the prep is going to make a few of our drivers lose out on early positions here. Of course, Azure trying to do their best to make sure that doesn't happen to them.
Yes, we also going to be having that mandatory pit stop on this track as well here, so it's not going to be as long of a pit stop as we had last time around in Misano here, but they're still going to be providing a bit of an interesting strategy option as well here, with drivers maybe opting to pit early or pit late here to get that jump on, get on a clear part of the track here to not get caught up in traffic, because especially in the wet here, traffic is going to be a major hindrance if you get stuck behind a slower car ahead here, so that's something we will have to be paying attention for very close, as we now see our cars running up 2 by 2, going down here, racing, get ready to start our race here. A very exciting one for sure in this wet track.
Yeah, as we roll up side by side, 2 by 2, we're gonna be really just a very tense start to the race as we run to the rain. You could just feel many of these drivers probably almost afraid of these wet conditions, as some might not be very comfortable through it, but nonetheless we have a race that needs to be run, and we are here and ready to go as our drivers are going to be moving up, their eyes shifting to those lights once again as we get ready to start our race here at Brands Hatch. As we run down the inside, led by Azure, the lights go green, and it looks like a decent start for every one of our drivers. We roll through the Paddock Hill bend here. It looks like Azure able to get the best start, and maybe Grim will have taken to the inside of Wushel. Yes, it will be to the inside, looking like a little bit of a slide coming in from the McLaren. It could be looked to the inside from the Mercedes, but it looks like Wushel trying to take the position back in the into turn 2. Newt is going to be filling him back in line of stern for the rest of our drivers. A little bit of a slide, I think that was in Druids from 1V, who possibly Wushel going very deep into the brakes, and a big slide, and across the track it hits Wushel. All of our drivers doing well to get side by side, get out of the way. Wushel, big slide, and I think heavy contact with, I think, Newt there of the number 272 McLaren very early on in this race. So that'll be a massive shock for Wushel, who started P2 in this race and has already fallen down to the back of the grid.
Yes, we also saw some incident happening with our leader in AM class, so Snowy. He's currently running up all the way in last place here. We certainly saw some kind of incidents here going up into Paddock Hill and Druids here. It's going to be quite a massive climb for both of our competitors here, hoping to gain anything at possible, but we are seeing still some very close fighting, as we see MN_, just able to get past F-Spirit here, going up into P8 here with that Maserati, just desperately trying to keep every bit of traction with that car here, and hope to hold out. As we see another slide coming up from that car here, just taking every single inch of this track here, just hoping to hold off. Another slide going up into Sterling's here, and just desperately holding off all these drivers coming behind and eager for overtakes.
Yeah, no, it's going to be very disappointing for a few of our drivers, but Z's are already putting the pressure on near the front of our grid here and actually leading our AM battle, our driver who started in second to last place, already moving to the front of AM, and as well as setting the fastest first lap of the race. Of course, not too much, as we still have to get through, and a big slide coming from S-Spirit, looking to the side of the track from the rear view here. Z's are looking for the move onto the inside of turn 2, and it possibly could unsettle the 777. The Maserati, we know, struggles for traction here without any of those assists, but it's looking like they're going to be able to hold just far enough ahead. Deep on the brakes goes the number 6, but it's going to be that gap stretching out. In 9th place, F-Spirit finally getting a chance to breathe as we move down in the cert. He's a little bit wide on entry there, but Wanov looking like they might be able to get a move in the run coming out onto the exit here, as this is the battle for our AM lead. And the BMW, look at that straight line speed. The BMW really excelling at being able to stretch those legs once they're able to get the power down, but this Porsche very agile in the corner, so this is going to be the dynamic, as it looks like the Porsche is able to get a better run through down to turn 6. but it looks like the BMW just far enough ahead to able to stay in front. As Wano just trying to stick behind as close as they can. Our cameraman may be a little bit drunk as we roll through and down into Sterling's. There isn't really going to be an opportunity here, but it looks like the Porsche might take it. But the 911 having to file back a line of stern, and it looks like they're able to get a decent enough run to fall behind into Clark Curve. And I think they've started to maybe calm down a little bit, but this AM battle is going to very quickly heat up.
Yeah, Swampy is just getting right up on the bumper of Caesar up ahead, trying to have a bit of a look here, going up into Paddock Hill Bend here, thinking a bit of it, trying to go for a move on the outside, maybe get a bit cut back on the inside, get a move up on Druids here, holding it nice inside, just trying to find that opening here, but it's got to be that mid-corner, mid-range speed of the BMW able to just claw away that distance here, but every single corner, Guanbi is just closing that gap, but every single time these two competitors are fighting, it's going to be that Maserati of F-Spirit able to just claw more of a distance, just make more of a gap. Yes, we see Zizos going really wide into Graham Hill here, just giving an opening to Juan, who's now going up on the inside, side by side into Surtees here now with a big move and finally get that move going up into Graham Hill. Very well done from our Porsche driver here.
Yeah, very, very strong and commanding move coming in from the 911 of Wanvi. And coming in, you can see that gap is already stretched out quite a bit, as unsettling someone through Surtees can cost them quite a bit of time. And now through the section that the Porsche is really going to thrive in as we roll through the back sector of the track here, coming back down to turn 7, maybe a little bit wide, and turn 6 there. But we have to switch up to Orez Lopez, who's now coming through Sterling's, chasing down the rear end of Saber Kitsune and really hounding them to try to make a move. This is going to be two cars that really excel in the corners here, so it's going to be a very hard-fought move coming in if for any of our drivers if they think they're going to be able to make a move. But it's going to be a struggle because these two cars are going to need to have a little bit of door banging to maybe make something stick, as it looks like a big slide coming from Saber, a very big slide coming through turn 1 of Paddock Hill. As we roll down to turn 2 into Druids, it's going to be Orez going very deep to try to make it stick. That outside line possibly having enough grip as they stick it around. Saber just trying to hold to the inside, but the inside now for Graham Hill Ben is going to go to Orez, who's able to steal that inside line, but the momentum now going to Saber as we roll down to Surtees, and it's going to be the inside line favorable through the long left-hander rolling uphill. Saber looking for maybe an over-under, cutting back, and then it's going to be once again the Ginetta holding him front, finally able to make that move stick. But once again, as we roll down to Hawthorne Bend, is this KTM able to get close enough? No, I don't think it will, so that move will stay to Orez, and now the battle shifts to Saber.
Yes, it's a very tight fight between our Pro and Silver Driver here. They are indeed different classes here, but they are not giving an inch to each other here. They're both just showing absolute maximum out of these cars. They're just hoping to get every single point into this coming championship here. A very important part for all of our competitors here, just hoping to get those podium positions. As we see a big dive going from both our competitors going up on the curve of Sheen curve here, and just trying to just find out. It seems like the Keaton just not able to keep up with the pace of the Ginetta ahead here, and slowly falling behind here, but very well done from Orez Lopez able to get that move done here, and now just claw more of a distance and start catching up onto our P2 and P3 drivers of Vossi and Mootop ahead here, who are currently up in their own fight as well here. Bit of a cap on here, but Vossi is still very much on the heels of currently ahead here, just hoping to harass that Cobra driver and maybe find an opening somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you see both the orange machines, orange, white, and black, are very, very similar paint schemes. Only can really tell them apart by the differing cars as we roll through Graham Hill Bend here. But Vossi is showing that long run pace, at least in our later stages of qualifying, that Porsche might be able to push something through. And Newt, one of our drivers who is shown flashes of being quick, but maybe just needing to put those races together. This could end up being rather spicy by the end here as we roll down to Hawthorne Bend one more time. This is where the McLaren will drive a little bit going into the high speed, but the Porsche really going to dominate this back sector here. The Artist Vossi able to push the issue and get a little bit closer through 7, and then we roll down the hill into Dingledale. Are we able to maybe see a little bit of a gain? I think that gap's holding true for now as we roll all the way to the edge of the track, and a big slide from Vossi, who's touched the grass as we roll through, but a very, very well held slide coming in from the 15 and able to chase that chase down the driver, the number 272, only losing 2/3, I believe, but a very well-held slide coming in from the Porsche.
Yeah, we can definitely see here that even one wheel slightly, a few inches off the track here, that's just going to get your car spinning here. It's going to be a very risky move here, and just hoping to just catch a car here. But somebody who does not seem to be sweating at all, that's going to be the car number 765 of Ashercote, who currently has a 3.5 second lead to Grimlith behind them, and they are very much thankful of that early lap. As we actually see a yellow flag coming up from Simufur GT4, they have got spun. They've had spun going up into paddock hill, but let's see if we can see on the replay here what actually happened with them. I'm going to go through here. We see them going up through Clarker. Yes, Stone Horner strong. I do believe that's going to be just them overshooting their braking point, going up into paddock hill, and just suffering from that massive here. We see them going up on a wide long entry here, trying to hold it in, but that's just going to be just sliding, unable to catch, and that's just going to spin them around and unfortunately lose several positions to the cars behind.
Yeah, very, very lazy slide coming in from the KTM, which seems to really struggle with rear grip here at Brands Hatch, and that's going to be a very, very disappointing setback from the Saber Kitsune, who's now dropped several positions, is going to have to make a recovery drive through the latter phases of this race. Well, a driver that's already made a big recovery drive has also been MNU underscore as we switch on over to Wanov, who's held position in this AM lead and has had to fight back, though, make that position up on Zezers, which they lost early on in the race. And while right now eyes are locked onto the 777 of F-Spirit right ahead, that Maserati able to hold in front for now, but we can see how much that Maserati has been sliding around and really just making a mess of the track, really throwing water everywhere as they're just trying to hold the car straight as best they can. And while very, very impressive feat of car control from F-Spirit, it is not the fastest way around the track for now. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Wanov makes this move if they're able to. It looks like the Maserati going a little bit deep into Paddock Hill Bend, so a little bit of time to be gained here from Wanov, just hounding down the rear end of that Italian machine, maybe using the assist to better effect than the Maserati can, as it does lack them, but a big slide through Druids, and F-Spirit is just tossing this car around like it is in the wrong formula.
Yeah, it seems like we're watching Forward drift happening here from this Maserati car here, just chucking it down every single corner here from turn 1 all the way down to turn 9 here, just struggling to get that grip down here. I'm pretty sure they're having a lot of fun with that car here, but it's obviously not going to be the fastest around this track here. Indeed, from their last lap time here, they were doing a 38.5 with one bit behind them doing a 37.6, so all of those slides here are really costing a lot of time here from F-Spirit, so it's going to be elbows out as maximum, as just make that Maserati as wide as possible to hopefully hold off Wannabe behind them.
Yeah, of course, and it's damaging the tires too, so the longevity of this pace won't be held on, but another big slide coming through turn 6 of Westfield as we roll up to Dingledale. Another corner where the car is going to get very light, so possibly going to see the Maserati struggle through here, and maybe a little bit of a slide. You can see how much they're working at the wheel. The car just twitching left and right, just trying to settle itself down, and a big slide coming in from Saber, who's spun now. I believe this is the top of the hill at Dingledale as we roll through, coming down the hill. Yes, that's straight through Westfield, coming up the hill to Dingledale, rolling through Sheen Curve, and I think just drifting a little wide. Yes, just the rear tire collecting the grass on the outside, and of course the loaded tires always just going to spin the car around like that. Well held to keep it out of the wall though from the 523, but now they're under pressure from Zezers behind.
Yes, indeed, but actually we saw a bit of a gap now forming between F-Spirit and Juan as well. Probably a bit of a mistake coming from Juan as well here, just showing just how on edge all of these cars are, just trying to keep them controlling these tricky wet conditions here. And we are actually looking at our weather radar. It's only going to be getting even wetter in about 30 minutes here, so even more challenging conditions for our competitors here to try to keep our cars in line here and keep them in control.
Yeah, it's going to be a feat of car control for the rest of our drivers, but just taking a look at our lap times right now. So best lap right now, of course, by our leader. Oh, another big spin coming in from Snowy. I have to imagine this is going to be the same because of what we just saw with Saber coming through Dingledale and Sheen Curve. A lot of curb on the inside. Is it just the loaded tire? Yes, it's only the rear and hard to the inside. That's going to be a very, very big hit and a lot of damage done to that Aston Martin. Fortunately, what Saber was able to avoid, but I think that was Snowy coming into the pits there. A very, very hard hit that's going to surely set them back in this race.
Yes, that is throwing the AM Championship wide open here, with the previously dominant lead of Snowy now just completely thrown out the window here with their early race incident here now with that out on screen. As we also see Wushu now finally caught up to the back of the pack here. They did indeed have an early pit stop, getting that mandatory fuel stop done here, as we see them going up side by side into Dingle there and the Sheen curve. Wushu having a bit of a peek on the outside into Sheen. That would be a very brave move here, but thinking better of that as we see them going up into Sterling's here, just trying to find the gap anywhere here to just slide past this really tricky Maserati, and then Doobie, that's going to be now the window Wushu just needs here to get past the Maserati, and indeed that's going to be a very easy move up from going currently in last place here.
Yeah, so that Maserati just seeming a handful, of course, not going to be very strong on committing to the brakes and really trying to outbrake each other. Wushel does have the assist in that Porsche just to keep those tires rolling, and of course the Maserati lacking those, really its biggest detriment coming into the wet races here. As we roll through into Surtees, you can see one be able to pull just a little bit closer and a big slide coming from the 777 of S-Spirit, who's able to actually still get a decent exit coming through the final phase of turn 4 there as we roll up the Hawthorne Bend. The gap is actually going to continue to stretch out on the straightaway, so Wanvi really having their work cut out for them because they don't have the easy advantage of having more power to get past this Maserati. They're going to have to make this happen in the corners and possibly even have a bit more of a physical move to really make this kind of work.
Yes, indeed, they are losing quite a lot of time behind F-Spirit here to trying to find the move here. They are currently running in 38 laps here at the moment. Previously, in their previous run, they had a fastest lap of 36.8, so they are really suffering massively here, coming behind this Maserati car here. But since they are currently in the AM class here, they probably are not going to be trying too hard to get this move going on here. They would be very much happy to just keep it here and just get those really important AM championship points here for sure.
Yeah, and as we roll through, it looks like Juan just trying to take the inside of the track. As we roll through into turn 1, this is a corner you've seen that Maserati really struggle with, as Juan V is able to take to the inside, going all the way to the outside is S-Spirit. As we roll through into turn 2, the heavy braking zone, probably where the Maserati is the weakest, at a big slide coming through the exit of turn 2, as F-Spirit just trying to hold the car in line. So you roll through now Graham Hill and another big slide, and taking a little bit too much track on the exit there too is going to certainly compromise their exit. But Juan V just looking for the moves into the inside and having to back out very, very deep in the brakes. It looks like F-Spirit also going a little bit wide, just an avoidance, but both cars, drivers, and everything else able to stay on track as we roll down the Hawthorne straight once again, and somehow these drivers have not come to blows.
Yeah, I'm quite astonished how well F-Spirit has been able to keep that Maserati. A very tricky car indeed to keep it together and just hold Wanvi behind them as well, despite Wanvi having several looks behind, around, left, right, even probably trying to go above this Maserati here at this point, just trying to hopefully develop a bit of wings on that Porsche, just try to find any opportunity to get past the car ahead, but still not able to find that gap here. We also see up ahead here, we actually still another large gap made for Ashercourt up in the lead. Now currently 5.5 seconds on Grimlith here, very much taking advantage of those early incidents and just cruising away into a very dominant lead again.
Yeah, absolutely, and it just seems like a very, very strong race that is inevitable for Azure to start running away. That gap is 5 seconds to the next car, and of course from P2 it's Grim Millith, 5 seconds to the P3 car of Newt, who's currently in a battle with Vossi. So pace is getting stretched out by this wet weather. Of course, all of our drivers having different things to contend with, but I believe a possibly yellow flag here popped up for a moment, but I didn't see exactly what happened. Possibly F-Spirit, I believe. Yes, they've actually dropped 2 positions here. So I think maybe a bit of a moment as we roll down the main straight here. We come in, we take the Maserati hard on the brakes early on, and you can see, just a little bit of the paint on the outside. A very, very, very minor mistake. But that Maserati just getting thrown around into the sand trap there and having to rejoin, yes, 2 drivers to the inside, and those would be those positions lost. But well held by F-Spirit after taking that touch on to the wet painted line, keeping it back on the track and getting back onto the racing surface.
Yes, even if he's not going to be competing for any podiums or medals here, I'm definitely going to be giving him a medal for just being the kind of brave brave man to take a Maserati into a very wet and very treacherous Brands Hatch track here. As we also see Saber Kitchen another spin going up into Sheen Curve here, just losing it yet again more time here. Saber Kitchen really struggling with that KTM here and just desperately trying to find any kind of traction on this wet track here and hoping to get these moves here and recover some points here. But he's not quite seem to be quite up to grips here with this KTM machinery.
Yeah, absolutely. That KTM seems to be a massive handful as we see Wanvi take to the pits, maybe spotting a gap that they saw in the traffic behind them and trying to make advantage of that. As we roll through a very, very slow pit lane here at Brands Hatch, but as we tip through, it is very, very short. So the pit stop time, probably about 28 seconds as we're going to see that Delta and Wanvi just coming in, short stop, and then you just take a little bit of fuel. All of that is mandatory. Tire change not required here, but it is going to be in and out for most of our drivers as Cohen is now going to be moving up a couple spots due to these pit cycles, and of course a few of our drivers who had incidents so far. But turn one, a big slide coming from the 404, managing to just keep it in line, but that Maserati just seems like an absolute nightmare to try to hang on to right now.
Yes, it's definitely going to be a full body workout for both of our Maserati drivers. Just try to keep them in control here on the track here, watching the very peculiarly missing texture 404 car of Cohen here, but they seem to be able to hold it all pretty nice and conservative here. Not the fastest lap times here, but just being able to keep the car on track, getting it a decent lap out of this is already going to be an accomplishment in itself here. And looking at our gaps here, there's not seem to be any fighting going on at the moment here. Everybody settling into their own little positions here, but looking at our statistics so far here, we only have the cars of Wushul, 1V and Snowy who have currently had their laps. Actually, we do see them in another pit stop as well. We do see them, unfortunately they seem to have pulled over, and yeah, not sure if they had another incident or if they are just decided to call it quits here with quite an unfortunate run from our previous AM Championship class winner here, but hopefully we'll see them again here in the future. But as I was saying before, we only have the cars of Wushu 1 and 1V able to have done their pit stop here so far, so it's going to be interesting to see how they are going to be the deltas are going to be coming around here as we get ready for our other competitors to do their own pit stops.
Yeah, I believe possibly a second incident coming from Snowy that does say that they have two pit stops that they have completed, so very unfortunate, of course, but many of our drivers trying to take advantage as we've seen pace or positions get shifted up and down the order. Grimlilith, one of the drivers benefiting from that, who was able to inherit P2 after we saw that early race incident with Wushel and really start to stretch that gap with the Mercedes, starting and having settled down at about a 5-second gap to Newt, 6 seconds ahead of them to Azure Goat. So a little bit of no man's land for our resident controller driver, who is doing their best to handle these conditions. And we see a yellow flag coming from Cohen, I believe, in turn 3. Yes, as we roll down to turn 4, and that is going to be a almost expected mistake with the Maseratis. It just seemed to be a mess here at this track, and it's expected with the wet conditions and no assists with the amount of power that car has, but certainly not a position that I would like to be in.
Absolutely not, and still giving a big commendation for that, as we do see both of our Mercedes drivers now currently rolling up into the pits here, and getting to get a bit of a quick splash and dash that we have expected to see from our competitors here, because there is no mandatory tire change from our competitors here. They only need to refuel their car here. So what we have seen a lot of, yes, we do see a yellow flag coming up from Boss. Yes, we see them spinning around, going up into Graham Hill here. That's going to be putting the championship battle wide between Newt and Bossy as well. Let's see if we can catch them on the replay to see what exactly happened with them. Seeing going up into Druids here, still holding on nice and strong, but I do believe that's going to be a tire, maybe a bit too wide, going up into the Graham Hill bend here. We see them going up, take that right here, and yes, it's still holding on strong here, but going around here, it's going to be a bit of an oversteer going up on the exit, and unfortunately not able to catch that, and that's going to be unfortunate hit, and that's going to be costing them dearly, with hopefully not too much damage, to still able to keep going here, keep on the fight.
Yeah, of course, once again, that loaded tire just getting put on the low grip surface of the curb, as we've seen going on onto the grass through right in this corner, actually. Dingodale leading up to Graham Hill Bend. We've seen so many cars just drop that rear left, that loaded tire onto the grass, and it's just an instant spin. There's nothing you can do because that's the tire that's giving you all its grip. And all of a sudden when it disappears, I mean, there's nothing you can do as a driver to stop that spin. All you can do is just kind of spin the wheel around, hope that you can get it and to keep it out of the wall, but unfortunately, Vossi not so lucky this time around as they roll through Clark corner and having unfortunately dropped to P5. But a few of our drivers cycling out as we actually see Azure Goat coming out of the pits right behind Vossi. It's certainly going to be looking to try to jump in front, so this could turn into a little bit of a move here, as Azure is certainly going to want to clear them as quick as possible, especially a damaged Porsche like that is going to be losing quite a bit of time. So if Azure struggles to get by here, this could be the race for Grim Lilith to try to get back. I can't expect with a hit like that anything less than a second per lap is going to be lost by this Porsche. So Azure's really going to need to make this move happen and needs to make it happen quick as we roll through Surtees. A big bounce coming in from the Porsche. Will it be a defensive move? No, it will not. So rolling down to Hawthorne Bend, both these drivers side by side trying to get the car into the corner, and it looks like Azure, yes, will be able to get into the lead of, or back into P2. So now it's just going to be Grim Lilith trying to close the gap on Merit again.
Yeah, it's not unfortunately looking to be the case here, because now Azure Goat and Grim Lilith have both taken on their manual pit stops here, and the gap is still going to be 6 seconds between them, so that may have not quite worked out as well as Grim Lilith with hope here. And I do believe it would be very likely that Azure Goat saw Grim Lilith going up into the pit stop and just take that cover and pit stop early to cover off any chance for an undercut here. So Azure Goat still with a big smart head on their shoulders here, getting the pit stop strategy just right and holding on to their provisional lead here so far. We have Blade Wolf currently running up ahead of the grid here, but they have not yet taken their mandatory pit stop here. And looking down the grid here, I do believe after pit stops they would be slotting right behind Wushul, in between Wushul and Z-Source here. So we're going to be watching them with interest to see how well they can get their pit stop nailed down here. And watching that, we also see a bit of an, and it's going to be F-Spirit finally going up into the pit side as we saw the overtake canopy here, but it's definitely going to be another quite poor strategy with getting that absolutely optimum pit stop done here to hopefully get these undercuts or even overcuts done from our competitors.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where most of our drivers come out. Most of our drivers also electing to get his pit stops done around the halfway point of the race. One of our drivers that has completed their pit stop is Wushel here. Actually, only believe 3 drivers in the top 10 that have not completed their pit stop, that being Saber Kitsune, Vossi, and Blade Wolf. So the rest of our drivers about where they should be in terms of the race, and Saber Kitsune is sitting currently in a nice P5, but of course they still need to take that 28-second trip through pit lane as they have to kind of cycle out. Of course, 2 big spins coming in from the 523 and another big off-track moment have cost them time. It's not been the race to remember from the KTM driver, but unfortunately they or fortunately enough, are able to continue rolling and possibly get a good result out of this race. We see both drivers coming through Dingodale and Sheen Corner. Newt, I believe, going a little bit sideways through the turn 7 complex, but very, very interested to see when the 523 is going to come in and where exactly they're going to come out as well.
Just looking at their gap so far, I do believe they would be slotting down somewhere in between MN underscore and F-Spirit here, looking at the gap so far, but we'll be watching them very close here through the next couple laps here as we are going to our last 20 minutes of our race here with everybody settling into their own little gaps here. No major fighting or going on any part of the track at the moment, but it's still going to be a very interesting fight in terms of pit stop strategy and when they are able to get their lap stops here. And indeed, as we have seen already from a couple of our competitors, like it only takes one wheel on the grass here, just loading that tire a bit too much, just going to be getting your car spinning, and that's just going to be throwing your position wide open and giving the competitors behind the chance to get these moves going on here. But we're going to be watching them very closely here. And somebody who seems to have lost quite a bit of pace, that would be the car number 6 of Z-Source, who's now currently at the very back of the AM class. I'm not quite sure what happened to them here to have lost so much time here, but they're probably just hoping to well, any kind of distance here to the car number 404 of going ahead here, maybe get that P2 position here. We do indeed only have 3 and competitors left here, so absolutely a guaranteed podium for our AM class drivers here, but hoping to maybe grab a couple more points here in this race.
Yeah, it's going to be, of course, they still are going to be battling Coed, who has yet to take that pit stop as well. And I believe, looking at our gaps, they will take that once Coed does come into their pits. But I think that was a car rejoining the track, Juan V, having rejoined after going off circuit, and take a look and see if anything happened. Yes, it looks like maybe having just clipped the grass on entry, because that is very, very wide coming in from the 911. And I think I can only imagine that they touched the grass under the initial braking phase and just shot straight through that corner.
Yeah, it seems like they just completely overshot their braking handle, which cost them to lose their time here, but they're going to be holding on a pretty decent lead here so far in the AM class here, with Cohen a couple of seconds behind them, but Cohen indeed has not taken their pit stop yet here, so it's going to be a very pretty easy cruising here from our competitor so far. We also see Vossi finally completing their own pit stop as well, probably also fixing the damage on that wounded Porsche as well. Yes, indeed, they fixed that front wing damage, so that's going to be putting them all the way to the back of the silver grid here. Going to be putting them up into contention of F Spirit, who is able to jump in on the pit stop here, but that's going to be a fight reawakened here as we see Vossi soaring right behind him, and that's going to be a very big advantage for our leading Porsche here, just hoping to get around that big burly Italian machinery here and then get back up into the fight.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a challenge though for F-Spirit to hang on here, because this is a driver that who is sitting at the front, has quite a bit of pace in hand, and of course they're still, well, stuck in the Maserati in a car that has no assists on a very, very wet track, in a circuit that really doesn't seem to suit the car that well at all. So this will be very, very interesting to see how well Vossi handles this, as well as how F-Spirit handles the pressure of just getting chased down by a faster driver and just trying to hang on to the, admittedly, the bucking Bronco that is that Maserati. So we roll through, the gap sits at about half a second. Of course, Vossi still needs to get those tires up to temperature after having sat in the pit. It'll be very interesting to see once they come back in after the end of this lap if that gap is able to shrink at all, because this is a bit of a recovery drive for Vossi, and they need to get back past soon, otherwise they risk not being able to chase down the rest of the grid.
Yeah, we are seeing quite a bit of a gap here from the cars ahead. That's going to be, I don't have a bit of a check. That's going to be, yes, every single other silver driver, save for Blade Wolf at the front, has already taken their pace up here. So that's just going to be on pure pace that Vossi has to be able to get back past F-Spirit, past MN underscore, past Wushu, to even have a chance at challenging Auras Lopez, currently sitting in P6 and having seems to be having a bit of a challenge here to Nude ahead as well in their own fight, trying to get past and into. That would be the silver lead here, because Blade Wolf still has taken their pace up here, and looking at the gap so far, they would be starting down into P3 behind both Nude and Auras Lopez. As we see Nude going up wide in there, just giving the opportunity for Auras to just slide right past him, but now it's Auras going wide here, going up into Dingledale, just giving the position right back to Nude, and now Wushu coming right behind Auras Lopez here. Now in a three-way battle for P5 here, with a fight reawakened right on time for the cameras to see all this action.
Yeah, it's going to be a three-car battle. Going down out of Sterling's and into Clark Corner. Looks like Wushel might be looking for a move to the inside, but it's not going to be there. But we see Nuke going a little bit wide, very, very sideways, maybe collecting Whereas and no, just able to sneak by, and Wushel rolls through. Now the three cars have dropped to two, as Wushel has seen a repeat of an incident they had earlier in the race with that oversteer down in turn 3. Well, now that battle shifts up to Oraz, and now Wushel, who's shown very, very commanding pace, is looking at the fringe of a top 5 as we roll into turn 2. That Porsche's looked very, very complete, but Oraz is not going to be an easy driver to get by. Of course, remember the home race for Janetta is just trying to hang on board with that machine, but it is going to struggle with that top end pace a little bit. Janetta known for its cornering, but maybe not the engine that's in the front of that machine, so Wushel could use that to their advantage as we roll down the back straight once more.
Yes, somebody we're also seeing a bit of a yellow flag coming up from F-Spirit here. Again, going up wide into Paddock Pen here, giving Vossi the opportunity to get that pretty easy move here up on the Maserati behind him. And that, as we also see a bit of a yellow flag coming up from MN underscore, going up through the exit of Surtees as well here, probably going a bit wide in depth. This is something that Vossi is going to be very much thankful for, because with Newt looking to have a bit of a damage here after that incident. That's going to be giving Vossi the opportunity to have it. As we see another yellow coming up from Juan B going up into Graham Hill Bend as well here. A lot of spins happening here in this last 50 minutes of our race. Let's see if we can watch them from our replay here. Going up with a bit of a wiggle here, going up into Paddock Hill Ham, but still holding on strong here. But it's going to be a very similar mistake that they had before from the other Porsche driver of Vossi here, going up down into Graham Hill here. Just going a bit wide, taking a lot of speed here, but just it's going to be a tire on the outside grass here that's causing them to spin and hit that wall here with a big hefty hit.
Yeah, once again, feeling like a race of survival. Once again, the loaded tire just sat on that curb, immediately takes away all of the grip, and again, nothing you can really do. And that is actually going to sacrifice the AM class lead to Cohen, who is now sitting the 404 on that lead. As you see the 911 of 1V just taking up that P2 position. Of course, it is still on Cohen to take that pit stop, but if that's enough damage from 1V, they might be able to get back into the lead here, possibly losing enough time. But pit window closes in just about 10 minutes, so Cohen does need to take that trip into the pits there, so this gap needs to open up quickly.
Yes, it's definitely going to be an opportunity for Cohen to secure perhaps another good podium finish here in the AM class here. But watching up the field here, we have Wushu still trying to claw back the gap onto Oras Phobos ahead here, not being able to make much of a headway here, but both running fairly equal times here so far, both running within the mid 36s here, and which is definitely eager to try and get up into the top 5 position here. We see them getting really close, going down Sterling's and towards Clark Curve here, just hoping to get a bit of a slipstream going up into the Bracken Straight here, and hoping to make have a bit of a move here. We'll see if we mention very close here, but it's just despite the lack of top line speed from the Ginetta ahead, they are able to hold on pretty strongly from the Porsche behind.
Yeah, and it's going to be quite the challenge, though. We saw when we first came on board a little bit of a slide coming from the Ginetti here, and a little tiny bit of a slide coming through turn 1 once again. So we could see maybe the rear end of that Ginetta starting to lose a bit of grip as we roll through turn 2 now. And it's going to be the inside going to Wadav as we go through turn 6. Not a usual overtaking spot. We roll down to Dingledale. The Maserati maybe trying to put down the power and sneak around the outside, but no one. V is going to sneak back in front, and once again that Porsche just able to use its assist a little bit better to the advantage without that Maserati having any, and just struggling to hang on. But now Zizors is going to be chasing down the rear end, and this is all 3 of our AM drivers in one shot here. Zizors following up 1V, following up Cohen. Actually started the other way around, Cohen and then 1V leading now after we just saw that Porsche take the lead. So this is wide open for either one of our drivers here to try to jump way up the standings and try to build that gap back up to Snowy, who we saw earlier in this race have 2 incidents and retire out.
Exactly here, and this is going to be the exact kind of thing that Zizos is going to need to hopefully get an AM class win here. With that spin and contact to the wall that Juan B had, they are going to be suffering from the lap time here. So watching the lap time so far, Juan B had a 39.9 with Zizos behind doing a 39.2 here. So depending on how badly damaged that Porsche is, that could give the opportunity for Zizos to get an overtake and get an actual AM class win here. Quite a bit of switching happening between all of our AM drivers here, with almost, I think it's going to be almost all of our AM drivers at one point or another having led the race here so far.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting race for the final 8 minutes here, as these are just starting to close that gap a little bit too. So we're going to see how quickly they can get past the 777, or if the 777 even pits in front, or sorry, not the 777, the 404, and seeing if that 404 maybe pits. But I believe we had a bit of an incident with MNU underscore coming through Sterling's here now, but I believe it's going to be one more corner down at Clark Curve, and of course down into the final braking zone. So you'll be hard on the brakes around now, getting the car tipped in early, and I think the car just shooting through. Yeah, it's a little bit wide early on power, and once again the loaded tire and a hard impact with the wall, just pushing MNU back out onto the track, able to keep the car going, but certainly a big chunk of damage done to that Mercedes.
Yes, we actually also seeing the fight, and they're getting really close between Wushu and Auras Focus here, now able to catch up right up on the bumper of the home machinery of Ginetta Heavy as they go down into Dingle, down into Sheen here, just holding on tight here. Wushu just inching and closer with every single corner here, just hoping to find that inch of space here on the outside or on the inside to get the move going up on the car ahead. We also see at the back here, that's going to be this car of Z-Source catching up onto the rear of Kuhn V, and just hoping to find a spot for own overtake as well. We're going to be watching both of these battles here very closely, but we're going to be going down to the front again here with we should just drag racing down onto Paddock Hill here, just not quite finding that spot here to get overtake here, but she's definitely harassing the rear of that Ginetta here, just hoping to force him to perhaps make a mistake.
Yeah, just trying to find any way past, but of course we're going through. Wuschel does need to get that overlap to try to make things work. Rolling down into Graham Hill Bend, we see that Porsche pretty compliant through the mid-corner, and I believe getting the better run down to Surtees, but the gap still staying a little bit too wide for Wuschel to make any kind of move. This is where the Porsche is really going to excel on acceleration and down the track and down the back straight here, but I think the Ginetta actually getting a much better run, as we saw a little bit of a wiggle coming from the Porsche as we rolled downhill up into Hawthorne Bend early in. And that Ginetta should be starting to get into an element of its own, but actually struggling, losing a little bit of time, a little bit of understeer coming in. So Wuschel now just trying to file back in. Of course, this spray you can see just blinding Wuschel as they roll through the back GP loop here and try to take all the curb, maybe a little bit wide coming from the Ginetta, but they're going to be able to hold that in line. And I believe Labelf now coming in for their stop, our leader in the AM class. We'll see if they're able to hold on to the lead. I do believe they will be usurped by Orez as they are running down towards Clark Corner right now. And yes, I struggle to believe that there's any way that they do not take the silver lead now, as yes, they do officially. And Wuschel coming in, looking for the outside, coming through turn one, or as holding the inside, but cutting off and losing a little bit of momentum. Now we roll down to turn two, and Wuschel once again trying to make a move, or as very deep going into Druids, trying to pull it back on track. Wuschel now has the inside, but that turns to the outside for Graham Hill Bend. If Orez is able to hold inside, side by side, we go down into three, or deep into the break once more and going wide, and Wuschel able to take the over-under back and take up P3 on the overall podium, whereas having to file back line of stern with Wuschel and really just settle for a P4 as that move looked inevitable once Wuschel started to get some momentum.
Yes, Aura seemed to be really struggling with the rear of that Ginetta here, and that gave the Wuschel the opportunity to get the move up here, as we have now the final 5 minutes of our competition so far here. Azure Gold now re-securing that lead here with a dominant gap onto Grimlith behind them, still holding on a very large 5.5 second gap, but we are seeing it down at the back of the pack here. We have Aussie and a big slide coming up from F-Spirit going up onto Graham Hill Bend here, and just Vossi still somehow not able to get that move past the silver F-Spirit car ahead here, and just hoping to get any more points out of this car here, but very well held from F-Spirit to just keep, as we go see them going side by side into Hawthorne Hill here, but it's going to be that power of that Maserati that's maybe going to give the advantage, with now Maserati going up on the inside. It's Vossi going up on the outs here, just hoping to get that over-under move here, but still not pulling out of it, just thinking better to try to get that move here. But Vossi probably looking quite frustrated, trying to find any kind of overtake opportunity on the Maserati ahead.
Yeah, and it's gonna be one more lap stuck behind, and those laps are running low because we have 3.5 minutes left, and Vossi needs to just try to get by. And a big bounce coming from the port, able to hold it in line, and once again looking like it's gonna be a struggle to get past. The 777 doing very well to hold in front of the number 15 here as we roll through Clark Corner, trying to put the power down. And I think once again, big wiggle, and actually the tire dropped off to the outside of the track. This could be an opportunity for Vossi, taking to the inside. Paddock Hill really dominated by the inside of the court. Is Vossi able to get a line? A big slide coming from the 777 side by side, rolling through, both cars rolling to the outside. Another slide once again for the 777. Vossi needing to commit deep on the brakes here to try to cut this in. It looks like they're able to get things set up. The 777 looking for a possible cutback, and a big slide on exit, and it looks like Vossi finally going to be released from the grips of the 777 up into P9.
Yes, finally with another move made funny mate. We see another slide coming up from F-Spirit here, just struggling with those aging, wearing out wet tires on this track here, and just hoping to get this car limped to the finish line at this point here. But very well done from Bossy to able to get that move finally done here. But looking down the court here, we also see Saber Kitsune catching up onto the rear of MN underscore ahead here, who also, I do believe both of them have had spins and inset on this track here, so they're both probably carrying a bit of damage here on these final 2.5 minutes of this track here, and hoping to get at least a couple more points here and get up into the top 7 positions here.
Yeah, and that you can see MNU underscore in front. We saw them have incidents earlier in this race that caused quite a bit of damage. So Saber starting to really put that pressure on. Last lap around, we saw Saber actually gain by just under 2/10. So starting to chase things down, coming through once again. Saber gaining a further 3/10 onto the rear end of this Mercedes. This could be a very spicy last lap battle as we roll through the gap, sitting at just over half a second deep into Druids. This is where the KTM really excels, pushing a little bit wide, maybe losing a little bit of momentum to the Mercedes up in front. But you have to imagine that MNU is staring at their mirror, especially with the damage that they've taken throughout this race, just wanting to hang on to that P7 for whatever they can.
Yes, indeed here, but also at the top of the grid here, we see Orange Fobber still hanging on to the rear of Wushu here, hoping to maybe get a cut back on the corporate head, as we do see them going up on the grass here, just almost catching out here and able to holding on together just well enough here to keep them with the ball shape. But we can see Orange is just struggling to keep that car in one piece here and on the track here, and just at this point it's just going to be probably a little too late here to get the move going on here, but very well fought from all of our competitors to try to get these cars here and get the moves on here. But looking down the field, we also see a little bit of a mistake coming up from Saber Kitsune now. 1.7 seconds of trip from MN underscore ahead here, so it seems to be about the ending of our final order of our grid. Yes, we do see that's going to be Azure Gold here coming up on the Auburn Hill here and getting ready to start our final lap around here with a very well-held race here so far. The grab has shrunk a little bit too Grim Lilith behind, but it's going to be too late for our competitor here, and it's going to be easy cruising from our class leader here.
Yeah, of course, there's 10 seconds left on the back section of this track. We aren't going to get back to start our last lap, so this will be the final lap as we roll through. It's going to be into Dingledell, into Sheen Curve one more time, and then down into Sterling's. The 765 has not looked like it has had any shadow of a doubt all race. Their pace slowed down a little bit as they started to manage that gap, and shortly behind by about 4 seconds, Grim Lilith will be following. But coming through Clark Curve and Clark Corners, we see Caesar is actually going a little bit wide and losing a position. We have to transition back to Azure, who's now once again led a very dominant race and taking the flag for the win in Brands Hatch in the wet. The McLaren, the British Mark, taking a home win, followed by Grim Lilith and the Mercedes, the 115 leading back down into turn 2. Of course, Caesar's getting locked in now in the P12. Wushel taking that P3 overall and managing to finally get back onto that step, or that third step of the podium. Oraz taking your silver class win, and P2 followed up by Blade Wolf, who's going to finish 5th overall. Cohen is going to be coming home for, I believe, P3 in AM class, and they'll be finishing 3rd in AM class, 13th overall. The last car running, but managing to take that Maserati all the way to the end of the race. Newt is going to be settling for a 3rd place in silver, 6th overall, and MNU underscore managing to hang on just in front of the KTM of Saber Kitsune. We have 3 more of our drivers, to finish through. It's going to be Vossi coming home in 9th place, just managing to come through in a big slide coming through F-Spirit in the foreground there, managing to keep that Maserati as well on track and finish with a P5 in silver class, managing 10th overall as well. Juan V, just our last driver to come back around, just down on the run to Clark Corner, and the Porsche managing to finally navigate that final quarter and take home your AM class win for the 911 of 1V, because I believe this is their 2nd class win. Correct me if I'm wrong, or is it they just had a pole position, but a very, very strong win from the 911, who brings home P1 in the M class?
Yes, this is indeed going to be the second win for Juan B, looking at my standings here so far. So very well done race here. And this is going to be throwing our championship points here wide open in the silver and in the AM class here, with both of our previous leaders here of Nudes and Vossi and Snowy finishing far outside of the lead of the race here. So that's going to be making the silver and AM battles very interesting so far here. But a big congratulations has to be given to Azure Code here, able to secure yet another dominant win here. And it's going to be very hard to see anybody else be able to challenge them up on the top of the field here. So we might see the championship fight wrapped up already in Paul Ricard here, but that's going to be something we'll have to take a look at next time here, because this is going to be the end of our commentary here so far. Stay tuned for this Sunday, as we're going to be heading for the next Simufur race here for the M2. That's going to be, if I am correct, that's going to be in Silverstone. A very dark race here. And then next week, it's going to be the next GT4 round here in Paul Ricard here. So stay tuned for that. But for now, I want to be saying thank you, everybody, for tuning in here and enjoying this commentary. My name has been Denak, joined up by Plasma, and I'm wishing you all a very pleasant night.